Nancy Ancowitz is the author of Self-Promotion for Introverts. She's also an NYU professor, a business communication coach, and a friend. Nancy, thanks so much for joining us. How are you tonight?
I'm thrilled to be here with you, Ross, and your wonderful audience and your other guests you piqued my imagination. So terrific.
So this is an interesting time. A lot of people who you work with are introverts and probably never thought they would have to be doing video presentations and virtual meetings and communicating with groups of people where they're speaking and there's a camera in their face and a microphone and they have to come through rather than, say, finding a quiet space in a meeting room or an office to meet with people. What are you finding as far as when you talk to your clients or you talk to people that you've worked with? What are you finding their reactions are to this experience and what they're telling you about? Do they like this? Do they not like it? How's the adjustment been for people that you know?
Many are secretly loving it because we get to control our environments a little more. Now, of course, depending on who you have in your home space, animals, people, whatnot, but a lot of them feel more of a sense of control over their space, their environment, and even having little Post-its about what they want to say.
Right.
Which you can't do as well or simply in an in-person meeting. So there's a lot of good stuff that's happening as well amid all the really tough stuff that we're all navigating.
Well, I remember when I was at NYU and I was in grad school and I had not given a lot of in front of the room presentations. I had worked in radio and, had some big audiences, but that's different because you don't see the audience and they're not looking at you and you don't have to be conscious of your body language or how you present. And the first couple times, because every class now has a presentation and a group project. So the first couple times I was so nervous going up. And then I had an online course, and everybody in the online course after the first day usually shuts their video camera off. So then it was just like doing radio when I had presentations. So I got comfortable and eventually built up the skill set of speaking in front of people, but it's not necessarily something that we're used to doing, and we're not used to looking into a camera is not a really natural thing for people.
Yes, in fact, it was thrilling when you came. I hope I can tell tales out of school.
Sure.
You came as a guest lecturer when I invited you to one of my graduate classes at NYU. And it was thrilling, actually. This is way pre-COVID. And you had arrived in front of the room completely virtually. And there was this giant screen in front of the room, and there you were, Ross, visiting us. And I sat with my students in a row, and that's the way that room was shaped. Otherwise, yes, I like the semicircle. But anyhow, it was thrilling. It was like you had completed our room by being in front of the room on the big screen. And yes, there are a lot of differences for the virtual experience. For one thing is the eye contact. I mean, who is born being used to looking into a camera as if that's an eye? And one of my favorite techniques, by the way, is I bought false eyelashes to put on top of the video camera.
I'm still working on it after 5 years of live streaming. I'm still like, it's just natural to look down and want to see your expression. And
it's like we want to look at ourselves. Some of us don't. And then there's also, it's not natural to see somebody giant on your video screen. And that can be intimidating, especially if we're talking about job interviews or talking to your boss or your boss's boss or somebody, CEO, what have you. It can be really like, whoa. Right. But there's a lot you can do. And especially if you're an introvert, it's a lot in the preparation, practice out loud can make all the difference in the world. And that matters also with a live in-person presentation, but all the more so with video because you can control your elements. We can all hit record now. It's so
Right.
easy, whether it's from your smartphone or the likes of your video program or app. It's so easy.
Well, you know what's interesting? When I was growing up, we never, there's a lot of talk now about introverts and social styles and all these things that there was no language to really
Yeah.
explain what an introvert was. And people thought I was strange because if I went out, did something socially Friday night, Saturday night, I would want to stay in or I would want to go home or whatever. And people
Yeah.
didn't like, what's wrong? You don't like hanging out with it? No, I just like my natural thing is one time I go out, then I'm going to want to retreat for a while. And even when I was in college, I was in driving, I was about an hour from home. If I every third weekend or so, I would want to just like get get away from it all and travel back home and sleep in my own bed and like be away from all the busyness, right? And then I go back and I'm energized, I'm enjoying it, but I had no way to explain to people what
Mm.
that is. And there was sort of a sense, oh, you don't seem to really want to be around us as much as we want to be around each other and around you because we never leave except during Thanksgiving break or and so it's like now it's understood, but back then I don't think people. You didn't know if there was something wrong with you because you were antisocial. Like now I understand what it is, but we didn't have that language. When did you start learning about what an introvert is, and what are some of the misconceptions that introverts face because of their need to have some downtime and alone time and replenish their
Sure.
energy?
Sure. It sounds like you really know what an introvert is, and it's where you
Well,
recharge your
I've been
energy.
one for quite a while.
Me too. Me too. And so to your first question, I learned I was an introvert, or it got confirmed when I
Mhm.
took the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, the most popular personality assessment when I was on
Right.
Wall Street, where I spent 12 years, and they gave everybody the Myers-Briggs, that everybody
Mhm.
took it. And I found out, and it's not a test. A lot of people say
Right.
it's a test. It's not a test. It's a self-reflection. It's a way of getting to know yourself more. And it gave context to my preference for one-on-one conversation, to listen, to recharge during my quiet time, like you, Ross.
Right.
And instead of an extrovert who wants to go to the after party, and after that, they're they are energized from that people contact. And I love people. I mean, I'm a coach. I love to
Mhm.
listen one on one. However, that's and that's wonderful, but I don't go diving into more people contact afterwards.
Right.
It's downtime. Down.
Which
Yeah.
is why this is like, on one hand, I think even introverts, I know I do thrive on close relationships and being around people that we care about or enjoy company. It's just that we also need a mix. And so this has kind of been an interesting time because we certainly don't have to deal with some of the things that drain us, like office politics, being working from home, and things like that. On the other hand, it is a little isolating, even for introverts. After a while, I'm fortunate because I've been used to working from home, but still, a disruption in our lives for anybody. Just the things that we do on a day-to-day basis, where we get out, whether it's even going to a store or going out to lunch and sitting down and talking with somebody. All those things are, at least here in New Jersey and probably in New York City where you are, completely off the table for right now.
Yeah, I mean, we still have our outdoor dining for a
Right.
few more weeks or maybe longer. But yes, I know what you mean. That, I mean, it, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, I believe most of us are social animals and we do need other people. We need to be seen. We need to be heard. We need to connect. We need to, maybe, dare I say, gossip. We need to exchange war stories, support, all that kind of thing. And that's from human contact. And sometimes with people also like animals, but through conversation, through connection. And it's good to know yourself. How much do you need? And
Right.
that's the important thing. How much do you need? And since my space is the career coach space, I say, how much do you need to get your career goals met?
Hmm.
If you're looking for a job, if you're looking to expand or to get to the next level in your career, what do you need? And I'm not someone who would ever say you should get out there, don't be a wallflower. No, 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 no. It's what do you need to get your objectives achieved?
Hmm.
And of course, don't just think of yourself. What do you need also to give back to help others?
So when it comes to either virtual presentations or job interviews or any type of situation where the introvert is put on the spot and they have to
Uh,
perform or deliver in front of either one critical person who might hold the key to a job opportunity or a sale, or whether it's speaking in front of a group, what are those communication techniques or what are some tips that you find are most helpful, like those who become good communicators or those who overcome certain challenges and are able to be quote unquote extroverted in that moment and and handle that moment? What do they do well? What are the main things that they're able to do, those who are able to find success in this? I mean, for me, I know, like, it's like the light goes on and I'm alive. As soon as this light goes off and the show ends, I'm completely quiet. I mean, this isn't fake. You'd see me alive with my friends too, but this isn't me. Once the show ends, I'm like, I'm wiped.
that's when did a tech check earlier. I said, Ross, you are in your natural habitat. And I felt so honored to be in your natural
Oh, thank
habitat
you,
with
Nancy.
you. This is where you belong. And all of us need to know what our natural habitat is. Where are you good? Where are you comfortable? Where do you belong? And finding that belonging is a huge thing. And for many an introvert, a lot of that is the ratio between listening and speaking might be high. You might
Mhm.
listen a lot more than you speak. Let that be okay. And the ratio between needing to prepare your most important comments before a job interview, before an important meeting, a negotiation, what have you, may also be high, as opposed to an extrovert who just can say it on the top of their head. And speaking of that top of your head, even though your ability, if you're an introvert, may not be as strong as an extrovert for speaking off the cuff, to build that muscle, take an improv class. It will
Mm.
help you learn some key skills. And my favorite one is called Yes and. It's building off whatever energy, whatever words, whatever actions are happening right now and
Mm.
collaborating with the other people through listening.
Wow, those are great tips. It's amazing, amazing thing, what you teach and how many people you've helped. The book is called Self Promotion for Introverts. I know you wanted to do a giveaway of a book, which
Sure.
we appreciate, and I'm just gonna ask people to put in the chat how you think you would benefit from reading Self Promotion for Introverts, and I'll check back later. Whoever's got the best answer, I'll check back after the show. Why don't we do it that way, and we'll just pick the person who we think can most be helped by it.
I love that idea.
Yeah. So thank you so much for coming on. I want to ask you this: when we break it all down, we're prepared, and preparation doesn't always mean like memorizing, right? Like I
No.
don't have any notes in front of me, but
No.
I've learned about who my guests are, or I know why I want to talk to them ahead of time, which then makes it easy to do this off the top of my head. But it requires some paying attention, which is what introverts probably are pretty good at, which
Yeah.
is like paying attention to what people are doing. What is there a way that people say who are extroverted might develop that skill where they're not so much about communicating outwardly, but they take some time to observe and understand, what makes their guest tick or what makes the other person, unique and what questions, the audience might want to hear. A lot of introverts, a lot of extroverts maybe don't spend as much time on the other folks in that sense because they don't do as much observing. They're so comfortable in the social act as it happens, right?
That word observing is so important, Ross. And yes, whether you're an extrovert or an introvert, that observing. And as an extrovert, one thing, a tip for extroverts out there is to count to three, or some have joked in my workshops 10, but just count to three to let the other person finish. And also, it helps you stay in the moment and remember to really take in what the other person is saying, as opposed to thinking about what you're going to say, to jump on and jump in, to do that. And the corollary to that, if we have...
Yeah, go ahead.
Is for an introvert, how to jump in, how to interject. I like the word interject versus interrupt for an introvert. If you're at a boisterous meeting and on a video chat, let's say, and everybody's chit, you want to get in. Well, the best thing is preventive medicine, be on the agenda, all that. But
Right.
That doesn't always happen. And sometimes you need to jump in. And you do that by smiling, by saying, "Hey, Ross." And you could add something like, yes, and Ross, I also want to add. So with good energy, jump in your best voice with a big smile and just jump in. Otherwise, you get to risk career invisibility, which isn't a good thing. And jump in as early as you can in any given meeting, when it makes sense, because this way you have the visibility, you have the momentum.
That's fabulous. Great advice. Nancy, thanks so much for coming on. One other thing you didn't mention to me, but I've been following you, and I know you have a course coming up for continuing education at NYU, and that is open to anybody. You don't have to be in a master's program or anything. Tell us what that's about and how people can find out more information. There's a link if people are interested to read about the description and sign up in the description on Facebook and on YouTube.
Sure. Present your best self from, what's the title? Present your best self. I don't remember what we called it.
It relates to the topic we've been discussing tonight.
From virtual meetings to webinars. It's basically online presentation skills, presenting your best self on the likes of video meetings, video interviews, video, what have you.
Right.
Presentations, and just really bringing your best self, whether it's your voice, your lighting, your coloring, the whole thing.
Right.
And especially if you're an introvert, we have special tips for you.
Awesome. Again, the book is Self-Promotion for Introverts. You can find it at livestreamdeals.com. Nancy, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ross.